Pro wrestling, if you really want to get into it and you really want to talk about it, number one, you have to recognize something very important, which is that it's the last great commercial bastion of performance art. It is true performance art. People suffer for their craft. These guys get hurt. If you're listening to this and you've never seen pro wrestling and you're thinking, pro wrestling's fake, you need to watch a little bit of pro wrestling there. You can't fake falling 8 feet onto your back. That mat is not a crash pad. It hurts. These guys suffer every night, and they're actors, ultimately. They use what is essentially dance, the art form of pro wrestling.
First of all, people say wrestling is fake, but that's idiocy because these guys get hurt all the time and put their bodies on the line for this. You don't see Chuck Norris actually getting his back broken in these fights. You don't see Jason Statham getting destroyed. A character in wrestling is made up of many different parts, not just like good or bad. Wrestling is your whole body. It's dance mixed with stunt work. I mean, he portrays, even as he's saying, he has to think while you're being hurt. You have to think about the best way to make getting hurt look great.
Wrestling is melodrama. Wrestling is mythology. Wrestling is action. Wrestling is comic books. The only thing wrestling isn't is wrestling.
What's going on, guys? This is Paul Bradley with the Indie Profiles Podcast, Episode 2. Pretty exciting. We had Kevin Condren on the first episode. And now we have with us today the Magi of the deities himself, Chikara's own Amasis. What's going on, man?
How's it going, Paul? Thank you for having me on. It's an honor and a privilege to be on your second show. This is good. This is great. This is awesome. I'm honored. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, man. Yeah, you were so close to number one.
So close. Yeah, so far. But it's okay. It's all right.
I think Kevin did the first episode justice.
Well, all right. Hopefully we can keep the trend going and I can do this with some justice, too.
I think you will. So what's going on this...
No pressure.
Not at all. So what's going on this week, man? Do you have anything crazy coming up?
No, man. Honestly, I'm still just resting and recuperating from the carnage-filled battle that Ophidian and I did with TDP last week with Chikara. It was intense, an intense battle. If you haven't seen The Distant Future, go ahead and download it, upload it, do whatever you do. Just see that match, and you'll see why I've been taking it easy for the past.
I think I'll understand after watching that.
Yes, I mean, if you know who TBT are, those guys are some big brutes, and they go hard. So
they're pretty intense.
So, yeah, just the mad guy is recuperating right now.
Well, I can understand that.
Definitely.
So, let's get into the beginning of your career. Well, we can even go a little bit before that. What really drew you to professional wrestling in the beginning?
I mean, it was always something I was interested in as a kid. It was just, WWF, was the first wrestling I've seen. And it was just more so the larger-than-life characters that were portrayed on my TV screen.
Right.
You've seen, Ultimate Warrior, you've seen Hulk Hogan, you've seen Jake the Snake. And not only was it these larger-than-life characters, but the colors of these larger-than-life characters that drew me in. And it was just the high-octane action that I was seeing. And I was glued, and I became an instant fan. Yeah,
when you talk about people's love for 80s wrestling, one of the biggest things that does come up is the colors. And it just made every character feel so unique,
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Definitely. Like I said, it was one of those things, like the colors would played a huge part in capturing my interest.
Right. Was there one wrestler that really, brought you, drew you in?
I mean, believe it or not, it wasn't a singles wrestler, it was a tag team. And not only were they colorful, but they were some of the best high flyers during that time period.
I'm going to guess the Rockers? Yeah.
It was the Rockers, Shawn
That's
Michaels,
funny.
Ray Janetti. They were my boys, just watching those guys, my jaw hit the floor. And it was just, again, they were innovative. They were doing things that nobody was doing during the 80s. And it was just like, they were young, they were hungry, and they were just consistent. They were just one of the greatest tag teams around that time period.
I would definitely agree with that. So do you innovate a lot of, do you emulate some of the offense that they gave out that really drew you in? Were you putting that in when you started training?
Absolutely. It was definitely one of those things that, like, one of those styles that I wanted to emulate because, again, like I said, it was innovative. It was high impact. And it was just, again, it was just something that wowed everyone, and they always had something new each time you saw them. There was always some new maneuver, some new flip, some new high risk maneuver that they were doing that just constantly kept them fresh, and honestly, that kept them embedded in your mind. You never forget. You never forget a tag team like the Rockers.
Right. The only difference really is that I never saw Michaels do a 450 splash.
This is true. I mean, that's the good shit. Not to say that he may not have been able to, but yes, I've never seen Michaels do a 450 splash. What's up, Shawn Michaels? How's it going?
Shout out to Shawn.
Yeah, exactly.
You never know who would be listening.
No, I don't. Now he's going to find me and super kick me, back to Egypt. So, Shawn Michaels, I'm just kidding if you're listening.
Yeah, I mean, this is, the podcast is small as of now, but, when I first...
Well, like you said, you never know who's going to...
Yeah, when I came up with the idea to interview independent wrestlers, there's always... When you think independent wrestlers, you think of guys like Lethal or Cabana or stuff like that. But when I thought indie wrestlers and who I wanted to have on this podcast, I wanted to have guys who not necessarily would be given these high-profile interviews all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to take the guys who I was fans of, and I wanted to put them on a pedestal for people who normally wouldn't see them. So, like, immediately I was like, I need to get Chikara guys on here, and I thought of guys like you, Worker Ant, Kevin Condren. I was like, I want to, bring attention to these guys.
Yes, definitely. And like I said earlier, it's an honor to even think of me in that light to be a part of your show. Thank you.
No problem. Well, you've been a mainstay in Chikara since 2007, so...
Correct.
Can you take me through the process training with Hero and Quackenbush?
It was intense. Anytime anyone asks you, they're like, "What's it like training with Hero and Quack?" It's intense. It's one of those things like they challenge you.
Right.
When I first stepped foot into the Wrestle Factory, like the old saying goes, you're wet behind the ears. You're new to a wrestling ring. You're new to the whole ordeal, and you stop and think, can I even do this? What am I doing here? Am I that, that small fish in the big pond? But as time progressed on, and then as, them as my trainers, or as our trainers, they pushed us, they challenged us, they believed in us. And next thing I know, I'm doing moves that I never thought in a million years I'd be able to do.
Right.
I owe that a lot to them. A lot.
Yeah, when you think about trainers who, there's two distinct types of trainers. So the ones who are just going to take your money and, they'll just send you on your way. But when you think of guys who will really weed out if you want to do this and if you're qualified, I mean, Quackenbush does not look like a tough guy, but from the outside, but I've heard he's just he's a beast in training. And Hero, I've heard he'll get the best out of you.
Yes, they're machines. They are machines, to both of them. They don't call, Mike Quackenbush the master of 1,000 holes for nothing. I think I didn't probably put in 500 of those in my training, and they all hurt. I never knew, my body could bend in such ways.
Right. I would definitely say that he was definitely, when people think about Zack Sabre Jr. now, and they call him,
yes.
the technical wizard, I kind of think that he definitely is, but he's kind of the second, after
right.
after Quack.
Definitely. So not taking anything away from him.
Oh, definitely not.
The guy's great, but it's one of those things you got to come correct first. You got to look at the guy who paved the way.
Yeah, speaking of Sabre, he's going to be in the Cruiserweight series, and I was thinking, when I was thinking of questions for you, when I think about, like back in the 90s when guys like the late 90s when guys like Cabana and Punk were getting in, it was a big influx in pop culture with wrestling, and people got in, and there wasn't really the concept of independent wrestling. It was, I want to train, I want to be the next Steve Austin, I want to get to WWE. Did you come in with that mindset, or were you like, I want to be in Chikara, or I want to be in Ring of Honor? Was there like a specific promotion as well?
That's exactly what happened. when I was growing up, I didn't know what independent wrestling was. To be honest, I didn't find out what independent wrestling was until I was maybe in my teens.
That's kind of the normal time to figure out,
And it was one of those, I discovered Pro Wrestling Illustrated.
Oh, right.
And, and they just, they cover all types of wrestling. So I'm like, wait a minute, there's wrestling here in Philadelphia, there's wrestling here in New Jersey, there's other wrestling, that's not WWE or, WCW, or even at the time ECW, too. Because they're, a lot of us don't really consider them independent wrestling organizations because they were on TV.
Right.
So then when I seen these things, I'm like, wait, wow, okay, this is great. So, I started going to shows. And seeing, what it's like on a not on a not larger scale. It was still a big scale to me because, again, I was on the opposite side of the guardrail. These guys were still larger than life to me, but again, it wasn't like big TV cameras and things of that nature. But
right.
These guys still went just as hard as the guys you see on TV, if not harder. And that's when it kind of really, really drew me in. It was just like, wow, I mean, these guys are amazing. I was seeing guys like El Generico, Kevin Steen, even guys like Ruckus on a monthly basis, and it was just like, you know what? It lit a fire in me. I was like, you know what? I want to train.
Right.
I want to train, and I want to get in there. I want to get in there and do what they do, or at least try to do what they do. And, I did, and, the rest is history.
So, yeah, did you know, when Kenny Omega, he is a good example, when he was training, he didn't even consider WWE. He was thinking, I want to go to New Japan. Was that how you were training? You were like, I want to go to Chikara.
When I got into and I really understood what Chikara was, I was like, I didn't understand or know what Chikara was until I first stepped foot into the dojo. And when I stepped foot in there, I started training. I met Quack, I met Hero, and I met the other students in my class, and I was just like, you know what, this is where I want to be. This is definitely where I want to be. It took, as time progressed on in my career, it was like, okay, what's next? Like, okay, where can I'm here. I stepped foot on the indie scene, but what's next? Where can I go to next?
And you never want to become complacent. You always want to put a goal in front of another goal in front of another goal.
Absolutely, yes, definitely. And that's one of the things, too, that I love about, Quackenbush and Hero. It was one of those things, it's like, if you're in this because you have a goal. You're not here, you're not in the school, you're not in our classes to just be a Chikara wrestler. We know you have other goals. And we see those goals, and we believe that you can achieve those goals. Just go get it. And that's the one thing that they instilled in every student that walked through those doors.
Right.
You set a goal for yourself and go get it. And that's one of the things that, like, again, I respected and loved about those two as my trainers, because they built us up. Like you said, they it's not like, hey, we're just going to, train you guys. All right, hey, good riddance, good luck. No, we're going to train you guys, we're going to mold you guys, and we're going to continuously help you and continuously train you, even after you start, you get out there and start doing shows and such. And it's one of those, and they were always there for advice, always. Hero and, Quackenbush were always there. I could pull them aside. Hey, is there things I could work on, or how do I go about doing this? And they would always be willing to just sit down and talk to you.
Right.
And just, and point you in the right direction.
I mean, yeah, those guys are just, if they were to make a Mount Rushmore of independent wrestling, those two would definitely be on there.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely.
Going back to, keeping with your training, Ophidian, your partner in the Osirian portal, did you two meet before the training, or was it just like you were in training and noticed you had a kind of chemistry?
No, it was one of those things that we've known each other for a bit, and it was one of those things. We had that chemistry from the beginning.
Right.
We had that chemistry from the beginning, and like you said, you know, that chemistry bled over into what we do in the ring, and it's constantly bleeding over into the ring. It's one of those things where like we're in sync. You know, our chakras and our line, and you know, we just have that balance, and it just, like I said, it just shows in our sportsmanship and in our not only our companionship, our sportsmanship, and just in what we do in the ring. And yeah, like I said, it's just one of those things. Like, and we're always pushing each other to do better, and that's one of those things like you need in the tag partner.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you know, you're not just a tag team. You know, you're a family. You know, they're going to see you at your best. They're going to see you at your worst. You know, you're going to be traveling up and down the road with this guy, you know, for years to come. So, like, it's no longer a tag team. It's a family. It's a brotherhood in a way.
Right.
And, you know, Fiddy and I are definitely brothers. You know, I call him my little brother all the time. And it's just that companionship we had, and that respect for each other we had.
And that's really
over the years.
The makeup of a great tag team is that camaraderie. If you mix that relationship aspect with, you know, if you're in training and a trainer notices two guys have great matches with each other every time, then he thinks, oh, what if they were a tag team, you know?
Yes, exactly. And like I said, you know, and that's exactly what happened. And again, it just skyrocketed from there. Yeah.
Yep. And you guys have really been, you know, when I think of tag teams in Chikara, you know, the first names that come to mind are the Osirian Portal and the Colony.
Yes.
Just because they've been such mainstays for such a long time.
Correct.
Yeah. Also, I was going to ask you, what did you think about the feud you had with Ophidian after, you know, the tag team split up for the time being?
You know what? It was one of those things. It was intense. It was very intense.
Oh, a lot of emotion. Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. A lot of pent up aggression. A lot of unanswered questions. You know, because again, we can rewind the tape and go back to High Noon. You know, when he turned his back on me. You know, it was without reason.
Right.
You know, why? You know, wonder why. You know, why all of a sudden, you know, we go from being this great tag team to me being the dead weight that he thought I was. And, you know, and it was just one of those things, you know, Ophidian was in a really, really dark place around that time period. You know, he was really, really finding himself. But at the end of the day, you know, it was in the cards that the Osirian Portal needed to be the Osirian Portal. And when we reformed and came back and got back together, we came back stronger than ever. We came back better than ever. So, in a way, it was a blessing within that curse.
Right.
You know, because we had to break down the Osirian Portal to rebuild the Osirian Portal and make the Osirian Portal 10 times better.
And I think some of the people listening to this, when you think the Osirian Portal, you think you and Ophidian, but those aren't the only members that have been in the Osirian Portal. Hurricane was in there for a while.
We had several members, yes.
I'm going to sound pretty silly here, but I honestly do not know, because I've never seen Hurricane without his mask. Is that Jonathan Gresham?
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I don't know. Is it? I don't know.
I just never knew.
Oh.
Because I remember Wink Vasseur put you guys in a trios for a bit.
Yes, he did. Perhaps.
How mysterious.
I don't know. Interesting. Very good question.
Where is that guy now?
Yeah, exactly.
And also, when it came down to, you know, each Chikara season has really, when you look at it, it has a distinct storyline, whether it be, you know, back in, you know, the mid-range when the BDK was in, or when the Flood showed up. You got a lot of attention during the Challenge of the Immortals storyline, in which basically the roster was split into, I forget how many teams. I think it was around 9 or 10. And you were vying for points in this big competition that lasted for an entire year. And you had a really crazy stable of, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it was you, Worker Ant, Fire Ant, and I believe Ashley Remington.
You were correct, yes.
Look at me with the facts.
Yeah, right, yeah. Fact dropper over here.
Yeah, so when you look at the Battle Hive, it's kind of like which one of these does not belong, and it's the Ashley Remington name kind of comes out like, oh, he's in there, Nothing against him.
Exactly.
His character just doesn't really match up.
The thing. A lot of people ask me, why Ashley Remington? Like, we understand, why you picked, Worker and Fire, but why Ashley Remington? He was sort of the wild card, if you will.
Right.
Because regardless of, his demeanor and and just the poise that he carries with him, he can go. The man can get down and dirty just like the best of us, and like the rest of us, excuse me. And it was one of those hidden gems.
Right.
He was the sleeper. He was definitely the sleeper. When he got in the ring, again, he talks about sailing on his yacht, hanging out, drinking mimosas, whatever he does on his yacht. But when that bell rings, Ashley Remington got the job done, and he did. And that's why I wanted him on my squad. Right.
What were your original thoughts when the Challenge of the Immortals was pitched? When it was, when it became the big storyline of that season?
The one thing was, of course, Ophidian and I, we discussed it. It was like, look, I told each other at any point in time we could be picked. We could be picked to be captains. And sure enough, we were. And we pretty much had this thing whereas, look, whoever wins, be it, if my squad wins or, your squad wins, we're going to use that opportunity to get another title shot and bring the gold back to your certain portal. That was our, no matter what happens, your certain portal will buy and fight for those tag titles, and we will win them again. That was our little deal. No matter what happens, that's what we're going back to. We try not to deviate from the plan, but it was just the Crown and Court. They were just a house of fire. No one was touching them.
Right.
So they ended up winning the entire tournament. Big ups to them, still doing their thing. But that was the whole thing. We weren't necessarily worried about it, but at the same point in time, we didn't think we were going to get picked.
Right. And also, since you mentioned Crown and Court, it got mainstream, Rolling Stone covered it, all these big, news, articles and magazines and such covered when Kimberly beat, I think it was Hallow Wicked. I might
Correct.
be wrong. It was. That's right.
No, you're correct. Yep.
Okay. And she won the Chikara Grand Championship. And I believe it was the first time in, at least that we know of, indie wrestling where a woman won the predominantly a men's title.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I remember just, I didn't watch that live, but as soon as I heard, I was like, this is going to change everything,
And you know what? And it did. And that's exactly, and I couldn't have been happier. But even then, when that final 3 count happened, the ECW arena was just inflated with just cheers. Everyone was happy. People in the back, we were just like, whoa, oh my goodness. Wow, she beat him, and it's not the simple fact of like, oh wow, she beat him because he's a girl. It was the fact that Hollow Wicked is a dastardly opponent. Like, he's mean, he's grimy, he's dirty, but the fact that like she beat him, it was amazing. It was like gender had nothing to do with it. She had the skill, she had the technique, she had the power to beat him, and that's what I think. That's what the shock from a lot of us was like, wow, like none of us could beat him, but she did. She had that heart of gold to beat him.
Right.
She had the that eye of the tiger, to use that saying, to beat him, and it was well deserved. Well deserved.
I definitely agree. Getting back to you, since you are on the show. Lost my train of thought here. Do you want to go into your semi-retirement?
I mean, yeah, sure, we could talk about that. I mean, it was just one of those things. Yeah, I mean, I got sidelined. I mean, there really isn't much to go into except the fact that I got sidelined with the injury. Doctor said, hey, there's a great chance you're not going to be able to do this again. I did not take that line down. I knew for a fact that being a pro wrestler was something that I wanted to do. It was my calling.
Right.
It was my life. It was something that I literally, blood, sweat, and tears, literally excreted with for my body to do. And
you can't not have that mindset when you become a professional wrestler, because you're going to starve.
I'm not going to, right, exactly. And I'm not going to, take the opinions, because that's what it was. It wasn't a fact. It was an opinion of a doctor to sit there and say, hey, you know what? Just my look, the way things look, you may not be able to do this again.
Right.
And I'm just like, you know what? All right, doctor. I've been told that I couldn't do this. I've been told I couldn't do that, and I proved people wrong. And I was like, you know what? Challenge accepted. So I took the time to get healthy again. Took care of my body. Took better care of my body, and it was. I made my return back. Healthier than ever. Excuse me. It was a very, very bitter moment. Bitter and sad moment of my life, because again, it was just something that you worked so hard for, it was just taken away from you.
Right.
But again, it was just that fire that I had for that fire and passion that I had for the sport. Didn't allow me to sit idly by and just accept the cards that I was dealt. Like, no, I wasn't going to do that. Absolutely not.
Exactly. And also, I mean, if you look at it, it's definitely not something that anyone would have wished upon you. But when you came back, it added so much more depth to the Ophidian rivalry.
Yes.
And it made it feel just so much more real.
Right. And it was also more so because, again, even Ophidian didn't think. I thought Ophidian thought at that time that he was done. He finished me off. He left me lying at high noon, and he's just like, I'm done. I wash my hands of this guy. And it's like, no. I'm like a cockroach in the nuclear apocalypse. I don't die that easy. I came back and I showed up, and I scared the wits out of him too.
Yeah, you did.
Because the look on his face when I returned back was priceless.
Can't really see it though.
I wish I could just,
Can't really see what his face looked like though.
Oh no, you look close, you can see it.
For those listening, Ophidian does wear a mask, but that covers most of his face.
No, just look at him. You can tell.
If you look real close.
He was shook. But again, it's like even the Chikara didn't think I was going to be able to come back from that. But I did, and like I said, it was just one of those things that it was a great moment for me.
Right.
That I conquered something. I conquered the naysayers. I conquered what the doctor said, and I came back and was able to do something. I came back to something that I loved, and I've been doing it ever since, and it's been great. I can't, I couldn't be happier.
And also, guys who really, you can feel their passion are the guys where, they get injured and they think, well, what else am I supposed to do? This is all I've ever loved. This is all I've ever wanted to do,
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's the thing, like you said, this is all I want to do. You're not just going to stop and go pick up something else. Like I didn't decide, what if wrestling's done, maybe I'm going to pick up crocheting or something. No, I can't crochet. I can wrestle. That's what I did. So I'm going to do everything I can to get back to what I do. Yeah.
And it's also, I keep losing my train of thought on you. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah, like we were talking about earlier, how we said, really, if you want to be a professional wrestler, people think, the guys at the very top of WWE, they get paid, Lesnar gets paid millions. But, you look at the lower levels in the indies, and I mean, you really have to be passionate because those first, at least the, year 1 to year 3 or 4, I mean, you're not going to be making money. You're going to be losing money,
And here's the thing, and it's funny that you said that. One of the things that Quack told us, and I remember this, he said it was after one of our training sessions, and we sat down and had a little powwow. And he legitimately said this to us. He said, you have to want this 100%. He said, if you're in this for the money, if you're in this for fame, if you're in this for the the fast women, you're in this for the wrong reasons.
Right.
And that's something that stuck with me forever.
And you see the guys that came in for that, and then they're just kind of known as like, oh, hey, there was that guy, but he's not going to be the guy that, is in a Hall of Fame.
Exactly. You can be that guy by all means, but,
I mean, you're not going to be remembered.
Exactly. You have a really, really true passion. You're going to understand that you're going to be losing money. You're going to be losing, you're going to be losing sleep from being out on the road for hours at a time. It's just the sacrifices that we make as athletes in the sport.
Right.
It's one of those things that this sport owes you nothing.
That's a good way to put it.
This sport owes you nothing, but you owe everything to it. If you want to succeed, you owe your blood, the sweat, the tears to it. And some of the best people, some of the best wrestlers out there that are succeeding, constantly succeeding, and made it to WWE, or made it to New Japan, or even just made an indie name for themselves. That's what they've been doing. They eat, sleep, and breathe this sport. Right. And it's one of those things, like, if you can't do that, perhaps you might have to go find something else to do.
Yeah, I agree.
The next person will.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy competitive because, I mean, if you don't have the passion, then there's a guy right next to you who has that passion. He will pick up what you couldn't carry and say, I can carry that too,
Exactly. I mean, like, it's like, okay, yeah, that guy, you coming into the game, you may be hungry, but that next dude, he's starving.
Exactly.
His ribs are touching. He's ready to snatch the plate at any point in time. So it's just one of those things that, like, again, when you get into this game, in the sport, like, you got to come correct. You got to be ready to give 110,000% or nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And also, for someone like you, guys like Icarus, guys like Hallowicked, they aren't going to be, in Hall of Fames. They aren't going to be, in books or anything. But when wrestling fans look back on Chikara, and they look back on guys like you, they'll think, wow, that guy really had the passion because he stuck with a company that's not going to put him on a huge pedestal, but they will put him on the biggest pedestal that they can get him on.
And I feel like, what one considers a high pedestal, that's in the eye of the beholder, because I feel like with Chikara, I feel like I'm on a high pedestal.
Right.
I do. It's my pedestal.
Exactly.
But, what your idea of a pedestal may be different from my idea of a pedestal. So it's one of those things that, like, I'm happy at Chikara,
And you can tell, definitely, with the way that you act.
Yeah, I love it. I love the fans. I love the Chikara. I love, the company. It's a great company. I bleed Chikara colors all day. Now, I was like, but that goes to show, it's one of those things, too. It's like, yeah, but, like, don't get it twisted. It's just like, as much as I got love from my company, like, hey, if New Japan decided to say, hey, Amasis, we want you for Best of Super Juniors, please believe I'm getting on a flight to Japan.
There's loyalty, and then there's business,
Exactly, and of course, and that's the best thing about that is, my boss there will not be upset with that.
Right, and that's the best kind of company.
Jump on that plane and go shine.
Exactly. The best kind of companies are the ones that put their wrestlers before their product themselves. They say,
all day.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yes.
Exactly.
Agreed.
Let's just agree. Let's just agree to agree.
Yes, exactly. You're right. Exactly. Agree to agree. Well said. Well said.
So on the current wrestling product, from Lucha to Revolution Pro to ICW to New Japan, who would be your favorite wrestler that is going right now?
Oh man, my favorite wrestler going right now.
Because that's definitely a different from favorite wrestler of all time,
Right. My favorite, like one of my favorites to watch. I have a couple favorites to watch right now.
Let's hear him.
But I mean, right now, definitely one of the guys that I keep tabs on all the time is Shane Strickland. He's been killing it.
Also known as Killshot from Lucha Underground.
Yes, also know exactly. He's been killing it ever since he stepped foot into this game, and like every time I watch him, he just gets better and better and better.
And something that, it's good to say about him because Lucha is such a character-heavy promotion from guys like Muertes to Matanza to Prince Puma. It's hard to really get your character out there, but when you look at Killshot, he doesn't have the biggest character, but when it comes to his wrestling abilities, he'll make you pay attention. He'll make you remember him.
Oh, actually, exactly. He makes you pay attention. Just from his charisma, just to his in-ring ability, like this kid is phenomenal. Like I remember, a funny thing, a little fun fact. Strickland was actually one of my first singles matches back.
Really?
When I returned back to wrestling, yes.
That's crazy.
And it was one of those things whereas, I knew about this kid. Like I've watched him, I YouTubed him. Excuse me. Did my research, and it's one of those things when you see somebody of his caliber, you get a little nervous because
right.
You're like, wow, this kid's great, and I haven't been in a wrestling ring for almost 2 years. And it was one of those things that when we got in the ring and we did work, it was one of those things like he pushed me and I pushed him. And it was one of those things like after that, we had that match. It was just like respect all the way through. Respect. Right. Nothing but respect. So yeah, that's him. Love guys, watching guys like Dave Starr, the product Dave Starr.
Oh, he's definitely great.
Just fantastic. Now, it's like mentioned, like again, over like Rev Pro overseas. Like right now, overseas, one of my favorites is Tommy End.
Oh, he's incredible.
Guy's a machine, and like a lot of people ask me, like, Amasis, you can have one dream match, like right now. They were like, well, someone came to you and said, who do you want to wrestle? We will book it. It'd be Tommy End. That's the guy that I would want to have a match, have a 5-star classic with.
Can I get a ticket for that?
Because again, it's right. And this is one of those things because again, it's like every time you watch him, it's just again he just gets better and better and better. And I know for a fact that like wrestling him would just elevate my game that much more. Yes. That's just one of those guys that like I definitely want to share a ring with.
Right. Speaking of European, I know Chikara is going overseas pretty soon.
Yes.
Do you feel like, the European and British market is definitely growing insanely fast. From guys like Sabre and Skrull. Do you see yourself being drawn there to things like Revolution Pro, things like Progress Wrestling? Do you feel like you want to end up there at one point?
Oh, definitely, absolutely. I follow a lot of the guys over there. A lot of the promotions over there. You got Preston Championship Wrestling, Fight Club Pro. You have Southside Wrestling, Title Championship Wrestling. There's a lot of guys over there too, promotions and guys that are over there that are just killing it right now.
Right.
You got guys like Will Ospreay. You got guys like El Ligero. You mentioned Marty Scurll. Like those guys are just like creme de la creme over there. They have the British wrestling game on their back right now. Those guys, and it's just nothing but respect and big ups to them.
Yeah, you can love Japan all you want, but if I came down to it, I'd probably go to Europe first because that's just as I was falling out of independent wrestling, as one does. There's ups and downs. Just seeing I don't know if you've heard of Jimmy Havoc. He was the guy that brought me back into indie wrestling. He gave me that same feeling when I first watched Kevin Steen in Ring of Honor. I was just like, who is this guy? I got to watch everything he's ever done, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely. And like you said, and just like we mentioned about Shane Strickland, those guys that we just named, it's just like, look, you may not have heard of them, but when you see them, they got your attention. And they're not going to lose it.
Right.
And then it's like after they grasp your attention and you've seen them, you're going to want to see more. And you want to see more, you're going to want to see more, you're going to want to see more of these guys. And that's what I like about these guys that we've named so far. Like, again, each and every time, they're always pushing the envelope.
Right.
They're always raising their stake, which is great, which is fantastic for them. Again, like I said, I can't respect these guys enough, for what they do.
I totally agree. I think we're winding down a bit, but I do want to get one more question in, and that is, you always have to set yourself goals, but where do you see yourself in the next, year or two?
The next year or two? Wow. I got to be honest, I don't know. I really don't. I mean, I know where I would like to be. Of course, I would like to see myself grace the WWE Network and NXT one day.
Right.
Heck, I would even want to see myself in Battle of the Super Juniors one year. Who knows? I believe, but if I had to set a goal, that would be one of those two things.
I mean, yeah, it's always possible because you look at New Japan. I mean, if you had gotten in a time machine, went back to a year ago, and said, "Okay, William Ospreay is signed to New Japan," I would go, "Okay, you're crazy. That's not true."
Right, and that's the thing, right? And again, this is why this sport is fantastic because again, anything can happen.
Yeah, go back even then and say about a third of the Bullet Club end up in WWE. I would have said you're also lying about that.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like I said, this sport always has interesting and exciting twists and turns. New signs, new up and comers, new faces. It's great, and it's one of those things that it's unchallenged by other sports.
Right.
Out there. It's really, really unchallenged by other sports.
I definitely love talk. I'm glad I could do this podcast because in the same way that I was really happy to do with Kevin Condren, you could just feel the love and the desire, with pro wrestling just through talking with you on the phone. Yes.
I get so elated when I talk about this sport, it's one of those things, as morbid as it sounds, I got it.
I don't think that sounds morbid at all. I think that sounds, about how what a wrestler should feel like,
Right. Definitely. I don't disagree with that, buddy.
All right, well, I think, we've reached the end of the episode. Amasis, I really want to thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Much appreciated for having me on, Paul.
No problem, man. Can't wait to see what you do for the rest of the year, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you, and good luck with your shows, man.
Thank you. Have a good day, man.
All right, you take care. Yes, bye.
And that was Amasis, Magi of the Deities. Great guy from Chikara Wrestling. Great guy all around. You can just feel how much he cares about pro wrestling, and you can just, feel his passion. I do gotta shout out Chikara a bit and say that Chikara's 2016 schedule is posted at chikarapro.com. If you want to check out Chikara, I would definitely recommend it. It's an independent promotion that it's just, I can't say enough good things about it. It's just a crazy place. And I don't really want to, put it in a box. I just kind of want to say, if you're listening to this, if you're a wrestling fan and you haven't heard of Chikara, go look at it. If you're not a wrestling fan, I'd say it's a pretty crazy and very entertaining introduction into pro wrestling. So that was Amasis. My name is Paul Bradley. That was the Indie Profiles Podcast, Episode 2. Thank you guys for listening.